Today, I want to talk about the Sephora Color IQ because I feel like it's a tool that has some misconceptions and hence people have not had the best experiences with it, but it is such a great tool actually. And I've come up with some things that I think can make it work better for people. So like many of you, when I first got matched for Sephora Color IQ, I went in store, they used a little machine to my skin and they gave me a match. Well, I was initially matched to Fenty 390, which is a Color IQ of 3Y12. And that means that on a scale of 1 to 15, it was the 12th depth, so on the deeper side. And on a scale of how red to neutral to yellow, this was a pretty golden foundation. So I bought that foundation and discovered that it oxidized to a shade that was too dark for my face. And it made me feel like I was wearing a mask or something like that. So I think part of the problem might be that maybe I was a little bit more tan than usual at the time. It also could be about where the Sephora employee took the Color IQ on my skin. I know some people like to go with the jawline, but for a lot of people of color, especially that have hyperpigmentation, this area is a little bit darker. And my chest is lighter than my face. So while I don't want a foundation to match my chest, I also don't want it to match the darkest area of my face because that will create too much of a differential between the two. My ideal is to strike somewhere in between them to create balance. So what I had better luck doing is taking a foundation, once I found a foundation, which the shade did seem like it worked for me, to take that and then use that to determine my color IQ and then use that color IQ to find more foundations that are that shade. So let me show you a little bit more about what I mean. I'm gonna share my screen in just a second so I can show you some images up here. All right, I'm sharing my screen so we can talk a little bit more about the Sephora Color IQ and some things that I think will help explain it better and help to fix it. Okay, so this is what the Sephora Color IQ chart looks like if you've ever seen the whole thing blown out. And as I was explaining, you go all the way from a depth of 0, 1, to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 depths. And then within the depths, a foundation can be yellow all the way to 5 degrees of yellowness, or red also all the way to 5. But we see that not all of the same undertones are covered at the same levels of depth. So that original foundation I was telling you about was here at a 3Y12. But let me show you what the Color IQ would actually look like if you went to the Sephora site back in the day. This is what you would see, and then you would be able to select a drop down for the foundation you already use, and then you would click go, and it would tell you the Color IQ for that foundation. So here's another view of that chart. And I thought it might be helpful to look at a brand's foundations on there because I also realized some people had some misconceptions about the depth of the foundation based on the way each brand or line names their foundations. Let's take a look at that. So here's a chart that someone made for Fenty foundations. I don't know who made this. Please shout them out, give them credit in the comments, but I found this online and I wanna zoom in right here to this medium deep section. So we're going to be looking at depths 10, 11, and 12 down here. And as you might notice, the numbers seem a little bit out of order. Here's 320 and then 300 and then 310 and then 330. So naturally you would think, oh, well, 330 is deeper than 300. And it's kind of right and kind of not right because as you can see, they're actually the same depth. So theoretically, 330 is not deeper than 300, it's just more yellow than 300. So someone might feel like, oh my gosh, I had to go up 3 shades. I thought I was a 300, I had to go up 3 shades. Did I do something wrong here? Could that possibly be right? And you didn't actually go up 3 shades, you moved the undertone. So maybe you are more golden than you thought, not so neutral, because 300 is kind of neutral. The 1Y and 1R kind of represent neutral shades, as I understand it. So you can see the same kind of pattern repeating down here in the next line where we have 4 or 5 different shades, all on the same line, which means these are the same depth. So it's not that 380 is 4 shades deeper than 340. They're actually right next to each other, with 380 just being a little bit more red than 340. Now, the Sephora Color IQ is not perfect, so sometimes there are nuances to the foundation shade where it might appear deeper. I also personally tend to think that redder shades look deeper to me than more yellow shades, but I just wanted you to get the idea of this layout. Let's look at it with another brand. So here's NARS Sheer Glow, one of the other first few foundations that I tried. And we see that this is the way the brand lays them out. They call this category medium deep, and I see a medium deep 1, 2, 2.3, 3, 3.15, 3.3, and 5. But if I look down beneath that at the color IQs, these are not necessarily in that same order. I went from 1Y10 to 2Y11. Okay, so far we went from 10 to 11, so that's good. 4Y11, but then here's a 1R11 and a 2R11, all on the same line. And the order of yellow versus red is kind of flipped from where Sephora does it. They put the red to the left and the yellow to the right on their Sephora Color IQ chart. So that's one difference there. And then we have a 3R11, but notice also that when we jumped from 4Y11, it was a 2.3, so it was in the 2s, and now we're in the R's and they're in the 3s. Now, maybe this is reflecting what I was saying about how redder shades seem deeper to me. So I don't know why NARS labeled it that way. Maybe that was their rationale as well. And then we even have one still in the medium deep category that is in the 12 depth. So let's look at this, how it would be laid out if it was on the Sephora Color IQ instead. So we're just going to move some things around. So now we can see that Syracuse and Marquises are actually a different depth than the other ones in this range. So 5 of them, but both of them are all on the same line in terms of depth. They're all depth 11, but Syracuse is 10 and Marquise is 12. So within the depth 11, I also rearranged them so that they're in the same order that they would appear on the Color IQ chart. Let's take a look at that. Oops. Okay. So here they are where they would be on the Color IQ chart. And I just popped them into the places where they could go so you could get a better look at that. So using this reverse engineering process, even though originally if I went with my first Fenty match, I would have been Marquises, which is shade 3Y12. This would actually be too deep for my skin tone. So I tried out some shades in the store, decided I liked Tahoe at the time, and that is 2Y11. So then I started buying other foundations that are 2Y11. This includes things like, I believe Too Faced Born This Way is 2Y11. And I also have this Shiseido. I can show you what these look like. So here it is on the back of my hand. You can see that's a pretty good match. Let's do the Too Faced there. So those are pretty close together. That's a 2Y11. I don't have a 3Y12 right now, but this other one is in the 12 category. So let me show you what a 12 would look like compared to the 11s. Okay, so you can see it's deeper than the 11s. This one was Chai in the Too Faced Born This Way, so a little bit deeper than the others. So once I found 2Y11 and I started wearing foundations in that shade, I decided, you know what, I still would like this to be even more golden. So from there, I tried the NARS shade Maria, which was 4Y11. I tried it in the Sheer Glow formulation, and I really like that golden undertone for my skin. You can't see it on this camera because this camera washes me out a lot, but I have a really golden undertone. So then I started going with 4Y11 for my foundation shade matches instead, and now that's the Color IQ I go with. So I didn't just stick to what the brand initially recommended for me. I played around with it and found something that I think works for me. And so now I say my Color IQ is 4Y11. Now that I have that, which gives me that balance between my face and my chest, I can come into something like this archive that I have on caramelswatches.com. Because Sephora has removed the Color IQ from their site where you used to be able to use the finder, I decided to archive the tan shade. So now if I come in here and I click 4Y11, I can see that there are 13 shades at the time that I archived it. There might be more now, but there are 13 shades that have that same color IQ. So I originally had the NARS Sheer Glow, but since that time, they've come out with some others. And so after that, I tried the Pat McGrath foundation, which you can see here in shade 23. So same color IQ. And this one is also a really good match for me. It's got a nice golden undertone. Sometimes I need to cut the undertone a little bit to make it a little bit less golden, and I mix it with Pat McGrath's shade 21, which has more of an olive undertone, but it's actually 3Y11, so they're really close. So I think my actual, if I had my perfect color IQ, it might be 3.5Y11, but they don't do half steps on here, so you might still need to mix. But this is a great way to go about making the color IQ work for you. Find a foundation that you already know works for you and find that color IQ. So let's say I didn't know what foundation would work for me. And I wanted to pick one from in here. I could come in and I can either go with the brand or the line or the specific foundation or the shade name. So actually, I think I'm gonna go for Sheer Glow. Let's look at that one again from NARS since we were just talking about that. And I see there are 8 in this archive in that kind of medium deep shade range. And let's say this time, let's pretend that my shade that works for me is Syracuse. And I can see now that, oh, that is Color IQ 1Y10. So now I'm gonna take this out and I wanna find other foundations that are Color IQ 1Y10. So I'm gonna scroll back up. And there it is, and there are 76. So some color IQs also have way more foundations than others. You saw that mine had 13, this one has 76, so huge difference there. And then I can find other foundations that match. Now we'll see, this is interesting, that even though these foundations are both NARS, while it was Syracuse for 1Y10 in the Sheer Glow, in the new Soft Matte foundation, it looks like the matching color IQ would be Cadiz. So that's interesting. If I wanted to jump brands here in Dior, it looks like the shade 4 Neutral would be a match in the Face and Body foundation. In Rare Beauty, it's 360W. So then you can find other foundations that have the same depth and undertone. One more feature that I added on here, in case you're looking for that kind of thing, is to search for celebrities and influencers by color IQ. So let's take a look and see what we have. For that same color IQ 1Y10, if I search in here, it looks like I have Joy Bryant, Karuchi Tran, and Priyanka Chopra. And if I want, I can visit each influencer's YouTube channel if they have one, or get popped right out to the Sephora site so you can see what foundations they currently have in that color IQ. Because remember, mine is an archive, so there are not updates to it at this time. So while there were, I think we said 76 in the archive, there are 120 here in the Sephora site. So you can come to this link and select the foundation there. This is not an affiliate link, that just pops you right out to the Sephora site. However, I do want to mention, if you go through here, like say if you want to check out this exact foundation and this exact shade from the earlier shade finder, this is an affiliate link to support this channel. And so it pops you out to the Sephora site, but it's already on that exact foundation and that exact shade. So if you want to just add that to cart straight from here, you're already on that page and you can do that right there. So I hope this helps clears up some things about the Sephora Color IQ and makes it more of a tool that you can use to your advantage, add it to your arsenal, along with looking at swatches like you can find on caramelswatches.com, along with checking other shade finders like Match My Makeup or Foundation. Those are also good ones. I just want you to be able to use this resource to your full advantage. So you can access the archive at caramelswatches.com, and let me know in the comments if this clears up any confusions or what your experiences have been with the Sephora Shade Finder. Thank you.